Welcome back to the Get There One Day podcast. We're now on episode 4, and today is a very exciting topic. We're talking about body image for men, influencer culture, performance enhancing drugs, anything that really comes up. And we'll start it off, I think, by taking a look at body dysmorphia, which is a huge issue inherent in society today. Charlie, what's your experience with body dysmorphia?
Well, I don't I don't ever like to put a label on things like this, but I mean, from when I first started taking training seriously to now, and I've seen metrics in terms of my body fat percentage, my muscle mass have all increased, but I'm certain that I look significantly worse now than I did whenever it was I started properly training. So I think there's definitely a correlation between the two, and the fact that when you are in the gym, you sort of see people that are like 3 times your size, and it's just the thing.
Hmm.
I'm never going to be that big, and I don't even want to be big as such. But it's just a case of people that look better than you. You're constantly striving to achieve that level of physique, and half the time it's completely unattainable, just because of genetic factors or various other things. Um, but ultimately, the impact of it is that you feel like you look worse, sort of in the long run, than you did when you first started training, which obviously isn't the case, but it's just the way you feel. Like in terms of you started like the gym when you were like 13, and compared to now, I don't think you've ever really suffered with it, have you? I mean, you've always been quite vocal about the fact it hasn't affected you as much as it affects others.
Yeah, so I think what you mentioned about not attaching labels to things is quite important. I think we have a habit these days of prescribing ourselves with like diseases and conditions which don't really exist. I think body dysmorphia, as we call it, is something that's sort of just a part of human nature. I think we're all going to experience it to some extent. You could almost relate it to autism. Some people say that everyone's somewhat on the spectrum. Whether that's medically true or not, I'm not sure. But often we attach labels to things. I'm not saying that autism is something we attach labels to. That's obviously an actual condition. But body dysmorphia, again, it's something that some people suffer from more. I think it depends a lot on how you compare yourself to others, how sort of I don't know, content you are. I think for me, it helps that I'm fairly happy with my physique. Um, of course, there's always better, but yeah, you do have to just bring a bit of rationality into it. As you say, you see these people at the gym. You've got to think, I mean, only a very small percentage of the population even goes to the gym.
Mm.
Of course, currently we're in the new year, so the numbers are higher. Um, But you've got to remember that there's so many people out there who don't even go to the gym. So even by just stepping in the gym, you're doing something that quite a lot of people don't do. And I do find my own experience with it is that I think other people look bigger than they are, and then I'm obviously comparing myself to them, but I think I compare myself in a sort of negative light. I'll ask my friends, and they'll be like, "You're clearly bigger than that person." So it is real. I think it's something natural, and you've just got to come to terms with it, really. I
Mm.
think allowing that to drive you to kind of take extreme measures, like, overworking yourself at the gym, getting you injured, taking steroids, probably also getting you injured. We'll go into that more in
Mm.
a bit. I think that's really something we need to try and move away from. But as you say, I mean, it's bad enough just seeing people in the gym. It's even worse when you then come home from the gym and then you see these people online who are even more ridiculous. So it's definitely a huge issue with the access to content online, um, that we need to kind of try and work around if we can.
I think with body dysmorphia, the extent to which it impacts you is largely dependent upon what your goals are in the gym. In terms of, if you just want to be as big as possible, and your goal is to be big and lean and have a sort of bodybuilder level physique, you're going to be more inclined to compare yourself to others. Whereas if you're, playing a sport or something like that, and you're trying to work towards that, maybe you sort of can compare yourself to yourself more than you otherwise would. I think when your
Mhm.
your goal is just to look good and be big, it's a lot easier to find yourself sort of having those making those comparisons which aren't healthy with people that
Yeah.
are like twice your size, who you aren't going to live up to anytime soon.
Yeah, I think for people who struggle with this, it's all just about setting a more attainable goal. You say about, being bigger. Well, you can always be bigger, can't you?
Mm,
You can always be leaner. We see that in bodybuilding. It's
yeah.
ridiculous how lean you can get. For many people, it's just about feeling healthy. I think as you grow up, it becomes more about that. But the problem really is younger people who maybe haven't come to as much of a substantiated viewpoint about kind of health and fitness, who don't kind of have their priorities straight. I'm not saying that it's not good to have a priority of being, big and lean. That absolutely is a career path that you can take, but it's a very slippery slope. I mean, you look at influencers who've kind of lived that experience kind of on the internet live. Look at Alex Eubank. he was natural. He was an incredible. He had an incredible physique for a natural bodybuilder. Um, but then it wasn't enough for him. Even though he
Mm.
had this massive following, who he'd got from having taken no steroids,
Yeah.
he then decided to hop on, and then he did get significantly bigger. But I found it quite sad that he felt the need to resort to that when, and that's someone whose physique is in the top 0.001%.
I
Um,
mean, it's like you talk about it as a career path. Obviously, fitness influencers make good money, and
really
those at
good
the
money,
very
yeah.
top of bodybuilding also make good money. But if you look at people who have dedicated their whole lives to it, who aren't ever winning, any sort of high level competition, and they're finishing, they're in sort of maybe they get to a national bodybuilding competition max, and they're not even winning them. The prize money you get for that is minuscule because it's not really a big sport, and you've
Yeah,
made so many sacrifices for it in terms of your health. It takes up so much time. It's like it's so much more time consuming than so many other sports because you've got the training element of it, which is just as time consuming as playing any normal sport. But then you've got the fact that you have to weigh every single ounce of food that you eat to the milligram. Like it's such a high level of dedication and commitment, and the chances of you getting to a level where you're going to make good money from it is so slim. So I think
yeah,
it's definitely a risk people take. I know that people love it, but I think it definitely is important as you grow up to realize that there's a fine line between being passionate about the gym and sort of your own goals and wanting to make the best of yourself and sort of becoming overly committed to it to the point where it becomes an obsession, it's unhealthy, and the sort of diminishing returns almost.
yeah. And I'm not saying you can't go to the gym, 6 times a week. I think that's a phase we certainly all go through. And many people will continue that, throughout their lives. I think most people will find that going 6 times a week actually, in the end, if you have other goals, is probably not for you.
It's just
Certainly,
unsustainable.
if you want to sort of maintain your physique or grow slightly each week, doing sort of 3 to 5 sessions a week is fine. Um, but yeah, it's a concerning trend.
It depends what you're driven by. Like I don't know, because of this whole thing with social media and people wanting to look better. I mean, I guess I'll ask you: are you positively or negatively motivated? Like, do you think that you're motivated more by the desire to look good and feel good and be healthy, or the desire to avoid looking bad and feeling unhealthy and sort of falling behind?
Yeah, I'd say for me, I'm more motivated to move away from being unhealthy. I will, if I miss a week of gym, I won't feel that I'm kind of missing out on my potential. I'll feel like I'm kind of
Falling behind.
facing muscle atrophy, which is not the case. I think studies have shown that it's about 2 weeks before your physique starts to fall off at all. Obviously, there's day-to-day variations in your physique, which is another thing about body dysmorphia, is you can wake up looking incredibly lean and amazing, then you can have a meal or drink some water, and then you'll look fat.
Mm.
Um, I don't know about you, but personally, for me, it's more to do with kind of how lean I look. I think that's the one that's potentially the easiest to see. You can see the kind of the belly fat or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think that's quite personal to me, given I'm not, skinny. So, I don't particularly look at my arms and think, oh, they're tiny.
Mm.
Obviously, that is a problem for some people, and that I think that can be a good motivator. Certainly, kind of when I started gym, I was driven by wanting to look bigger. So I think you can use it as a tool to drive yourself. But yeah, as we
I think I
said,
wake up most mornings and like look at my belly and see if I can see my abs as soon as I wake up, then I'm happy. And if not, then it's like, well, what's happened there? And obviously, the smallest thing, even things as simple as your hormones that are completely out of your control, can influence it. But that is the thing with this body dysmorphia. If that's the label we're going to put on it, you can sort of elements that are completely out of your control can have such a big impact on the way that you sort of feel about the way you look in your own physique, which it's yeah, not ideal, but it
yeah,
is what it is. You're ultimately the bottom line is if you put enough time and effort and commitment into the gym and to your fitness, you will like see noticeable improvements, and maybe you'll progress like more slowly than friends of yours, maybe more quickly, and you won't see the same improvements in the same time frame. But ultimately, long term, you will see improvements, and it's just where it's about sticking to it and having that sort of dedication without letting it become possessive.
100%.
So, do you think that social media is if you said about coming home from the gym and you've already struggled by comparing yourself with others and then you come home and you see these ridiculous people influencers etc. How accurate do you think social media is in terms of its representation of people's genuine real life physiques and lifestyles?
It's incredibly inaccurate, and I think increasingly people are realizing that there are quite a lot of influencers who are willing to show them more kind of vulnerable side of it, where they'll show you in kind of bad lighting, and then compare it to themselves in good lighting, and you realize that their physique is, a top physique in good lighting, but without it, it looks, fairly terrible.
Mm.
Um, so I think that's been a positive. There are a lot of positives. I think people are kind of catching on more when people are on steroids because there's so much information out there, and it's something that people do take an interest in. I think that's something that is a boon when it comes to kind of noticing whether fitness influencers are leading people astray or whatever.
Mm.
Um, how about you?
I still think like yeah, as you say, social media influencers, well, fitness influencers definitely they lead people astray 100%. Easy like, and that's part of their I think intention almost because they want you know they want content which is eye catching and is going to make people go wow, um, because they want people to want to look like them because then they buy their program and supplements etc. It's a it's a pyramid scheme almost.
Mm,
Um, but I said earlier like it depends what you're motivated by. Like I can come home from the gym or whatever and look at people who like these massive people who will look at some later, but these people that are like huge, unbelievably big, and it's not just not what I want to look like that personally. I mean, I'm more sort of my health is the most important thing to me. Um, I want to prolong my life as best as possible and honor my body. I don't want to be sort of massive, and I've never been inclined to jump on steroids and try and get as big as I possibly can because it just isn't what my goals are personally. I think I'd rather be a lowish body fat. And we talked about like hybrid athletes. Like last year, we were talking about where we could, you want to be stronger than the bodybuilders and fitter than the runners or something like that, which is obviously a good thing to aim for. But that's my ambition almost, where I'm have a finger in each pie. I'm good at all of it, but I don't want to be exceptionally big, and that's why I think I'm not really impacted. Like I can look at an influencer and see their physique and think, wow, yeah, that's really impressive. Like he's got a great physique, blah blah blah. But it doesn't mean that I want to look like it, and I think that's why I don't massively struggle with that whole comparison thing. It doesn't mean that I don't look at people and think, well, yeah, they look really good. Like, oh, it would be good to look like that one day. But I don't think it impacts me as much as maybe it impacts others. Um, like, I mean, would you say, in terms of your own motivation, that you're more motivated by health and sort of that side of things, or do you just want to look good, or is it just you want to get the best out you possibly can, the best results out of the gym in terms of health, physique, mental health, all of it?
yeah, I think it's definitely health. As someone who I'd say used to play a sport, I wouldn't really say I play it much anymore. Used to play a lot of rugby, also used to do a lot of swimming. So functional strength used to be a lot more important to me. So, having that motivation, certainly you said about how I started gym quite early, and that was predominantly motivated by getting stronger. I think that's a good goal to have. I think being strong is useful. You don't want your wife to ask you to carry the shopping bags in and you can't lift them, sort of thing. And you want to be able to carry your baby around without your back hurting. Um, which is another thing. I think the issue with strength and the increasingly high standards, this whole threshold of the 100 kilogram bench that people sort of strive for, it results in people pushing themselves too much. I think they don't prioritize kind of safe lifting, and I think there's not enough emphasis put on being, treating your muscles well. Of
Mm.
course, you're treating them well by taking them to the gym, but you're kind of precluding
That's
other
half the
aspects.
battle.
Yeah, I don't think there's nearly enough emphasis put on stretching. Certainly,
Recovery.
as someone who's had a few injuries, particularly hamstring and lower back, um, you know, bench press is not going to help your lower back. Squatting certainly isn't going to help your lower back. Deadlifting really isn't going to help your lower back. I mean, most people I've spoken to don't even deadlift just because it's so intensive on your lower back. We'll look at someone later who does deadlift and seems to be fine, but that's because they've spent years and years training and have built up a strong technique. And to be honest, their lower back is probably stronger because they do deadlift. I
Yeah,
think if you do it correctly, obviously your back has to be stronger. You're hinging around your back and your hips. But yeah, I think it's all well and good being able to press 120 kilograms. Um, but I wish I'd prioritized being able to, move my arms in circles a bit more fluidly.
it's the
But then
thing is
again,
if you can deadlift 250 kilograms and you can bench 150, it's all well and good. But if you get out of breath walking up the stairs and you've got chronic back pain, chronic shoulder pain, you can't do a full workout without having that twinge in your shoulder. It's like it's useless. And those movements like it's all well and good being able to say, as I say, that you can lift a certain amount of weight, but then they're not necessarily the most optimal movements for those muscle groups. And not only that, but all it takes is slightly improper form to really, especially on deadlift, to really injure yourself. And that's why most people avoid it. the person we're looking at later, as I say, he's got a team of trainers around him who tell him exactly what to do, the complete correct form, and he does it in a safe manner. But if you're just going down to a local pure gym and sticking loads of plates on a barbell and then trying to lift it with terrible twisting form and your back arched over the bar, then it's probably not going to end very well for you. Um, but yeah, it's definitely you have to. It's a fine line, as I say, and there's a lot of talking about this fine line in fitness. But there's a fine line between being really dedicated and wanting to get the best you possibly can out of your gym, your workouts, without um, taking it seriously enough in terms of the elements that come with it, like warming up, like recovery, like your functional movements around just the gym, and even just 5 minutes of stretching afterwards can be massive.
Yeah, but the thing is, of course, the stretching isn't the fun bit, and the cardio isn't the fun bit.
Mm,
Um, but without cardio, you're going to have a terribly unhealthy heart.
yeah,
You're going to be out of breath, as you say, walking up the stairs. So often, the most important things are the things that you
don't
don't
even
want to
enjoy.
do.
Yeah, and also without them, it's a lot hard. I mean, I've I don't know if there's any science behind this, but generally the people that do mix in a little bit of cardio here and there, and they make sure they're drinking enough water and they're stretching before and after their sessions, see better results and progress more quickly than those who just turn up, do a session, and go home. I think there's, as I say, I'm not sure about the science on this, but I think there is a link between people in men that do more running and cycling and testosterone production, and obviously that's crucial to muscle growth. So I think people overlook these boring elements of fitness, but actually they're crucial to achieving your goals in a lot of ways. And if you do just turn up to the gym, do a quick session, a TikTok workout, whatever, and then go home, your results probably aren't going to be as good as those who are taking it a bit more seriously and taking the extra 10, 15 minutes to do the added extras around it that aren't necessarily as exciting.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think one thing that we do want to nail home is that it's really easy to compare yourself to people who are maybe enhanced that don't necessarily always look it, and people that think, oh, that's attainable naturally. Actually, 2, 3 years of natural training looks very different in someone who compared to someone who's trained for 2 or 3 years and then taken some sort of enhancement. And I think it's quite important to nail home that distinction.
yeah. I think it's also important to nail home that neither of us have got this figured out, as always.
Mm,
Honestly, I'm saying some of this stuff to encourage myself to do it because I don't really stretch that often. And that's probably why my hamstrings still don't feel perfect on a day-to-day basis, despite having not injured them in quite a while. And again, bringing myself to do cardio, especially when it's freezing cold outside as it is now, is very tough. You've got to find a way that works for you. Maybe the way that works for me is, actually going to the gym and going on the cardio machines. I certainly over Christmas was trying to go on runs and then was finding that because I'm prone to a bit of asthma, the cold air was kind of making it literally impossible to come home without wheezing.
yeah.
You've got to find a way that works for you.
I think when we were
I,
playing sport, it was really easy because you just
yeah,
it happens
you had to
naturally.
do
You
it,
haven't got to
right?
think about it. Whereas when you're left to your own devices, it's like, well, what am I going to do? I went and did one Bronco to start of Jan, and it was good. Like, I got a good time and I felt good for it. But then I got back into bed after that night, and I was wheezing all night. I had a really chesty, horrible cough just because
Yeah,
the cold air. It's just not, and it's not motivating either. Whereas in summer, it's really easy to go out and it's sunny and it's like, oh, this will be a really pleasant experience. But it's hard to motivate yourself in December, January, when the times we were training with our teams all the time, and that was easy. Just that cardio came as a byproduct of that. Whereas now, I just say, and it's just like anything, having to motivate yourself to do it is a lot more difficult than having it there ready made for you.
yeah. So we'd say for some actionable stuff, if you are trying to set yourself a goal to, do some fitness or something like this, say you're going to try and start running. Running's an incredibly good form of cardio. It's quite high intensity. So consider if you've never done any form of cardio before, maybe starting on the bike or something. The bike is a lot gentler. It's not very gentle on your quads, admittedly. So try and tie that in nicely with leg day if that's something that you're prioritizing as well. Another thing is try and this applies to any habit, but try and do it as soon as you wake up because the highest friction stuff, if you get it out of the way as soon as you wake up, it's done for the day. And then, as long as you're not gonna be then, as you say, wheezing for the rest of the day, that's fine because then you've got it out of the way, and then you're recovered for the following day. But your fortitude throughout the day to actually do this sort of stuff drops off. So I'd say try and do it in the morning, and also set a better goal. Don't set a goal to do it once. Set a goal to do it for 3 days in a row. Once you've done the first 2 or 3 days, you're getting there because when you do the first day, as we've said from our own experience, you'll do it and then you feel horrible and then you won't do it the next day because your body kind of associates that short-term negativity with not wanting to do it.
Yeah,
If you get it done a few times, you'll start to realize, oh, actually, that felt so much better than the previous day. So it gets more difficult the longer you leave it.
mm.
So do it now.
The sweet spot is when it becomes part of your routine. I think, like, I mean, for you and me, maybe it's a bit different for you when you're at uni, you've got exams on and you're working, etc. But missing the gym for more than sort of 3 days a week just feels weird. Do you know what I mean? And the gym is generally part of our day to day routine. And if not the gym, some sort of exercise. I
Yeah,
think when these productive habits become, when you put loads of emphasis on them and think, oh my God, I've got to do this today, then you're obviously naturally going to be more, it's going to feel more daunting. Whereas if you just say, oh yeah, at 6, I'm going to spend an hour at the gym and do this, I wouldn't go at 6 because it'll be rammed, but the point still stands. I'll do the gym or a run or something like that at this sort of time. And it's just a little thing and it becomes part of your daily routine. And actually, you'll notice improvements a lot more than if you go once a week and do a massive session and put loads of emphasis on it, both mentally and physically, in my opinion.
yeah. And don't just try and set yourself a goal. Don't just try and start running. Make it impossible for you to not run, right? So I can't eat breakfast until I do a run. A great example that I've just done is my girlfriend has diabetes, uh, and she signed up for a 12-week swim 22, swim the length of the English Channel, which is about 22 kilometers, in 12 weeks, right? So that requires a fair amount of dedication, probably for some people going swimming most days. For me, as someone who's actually a pretty proficient swimmer, even though I haven't done it in a few years, I used to be a competitive swimmer. I think I'll be able to go, 3 or 4 times a week. To me, that seems like a very healthy habit to
Mm.
kickstart, and it's for charity. I can't not do it, right? So I think that's a really good thing to sort of lock yourself into, especially if you're getting people to donate money for you to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't have to do that. I mean, I set my donation goal at like £5. It's not, it's not really about that, right? The obviously awareness of diabetes is a huge thing. So I'm doing it partly for that, but also partly for just to get me back into my swimming. And I think that's a really good way of kind of setting yourself a challenge. Even if it's just getting on Strava, going with a friend. Certainly, I used to go running with my flatmate last year. Most mornings we'd go out onto the playing fields at uni and we'd basically challenge ourselves to improve our Bronco time, as you talked about. Get a few seconds off it each time. If you see some kind of measurable progress like that, again, it might be like going for a 5K PR, anything like that, a really measurable goal or something that means that you kind of can't stop, and
Mm.
try and also enjoy it, because I think I've kind of decided that I hate running. So I'm thinking it's maybe a bit difficult for me to actually build a running habit. My housemate Nate, he loves running. Shout out to Nate. He's been he kind of started from not doing very much running at all to now kind of going on runs most days, 5, 8, 10, 12K, setting 5K PRs. If that's something you enjoy, then go for it. But there's other options.
Yeah.
Um,
As you say, I think when that dopamine hit from seeing measurable progress is so motivating. Like when, as you say, when we even in school, like 2 years ago now, when you and I were doing Broncos and we'd see like 3 seconds come off our time, doesn't sound like a lot, but it's so motivating to think, right, what am I going to work towards tomorrow? And it's just, and you build up momentum, which I think is really important.
yeah,
Um,
which I think is like akin to kind of what we felt when we were doing our team sports.
mm,
For me, it was like make the first team, make the Worcester Warriors Academy, just make it there every week because you're part of a team and you kind of have to be there. They need you, right? You were also in a football academy, right? There's a progression there, right? I think everyone deludes themselves when they're a kid into thinking, oh, I'm going to be a professional footballer or a rugby player.
yeah,
Um,
you get signed to the academy when you're like 11, and you think, yeah, that's it, I'm set now.
I'm the top baller.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, it's a harsh realization. But I think even like playing for school, and same for you, and our school was actually different because you were training each other like 4 times a week. The motivation to get better and to get good results, just because you wanted to do well for everyone around you, was massive. And I think that can be, like you say, with you and Nate going and doing Broncos, that can be compared to even just going to the gym with your mate or something. If you see results together, or you go for runs together and you see results together, I just think it's if you have got friends or someone that you can go with. I go with my girlfriend. It's just it does add that extra bit of motivation, and it's also somebody to hold you accountable as well. If you can't be asked that one day, then oh, well, we're
Yeah.
going. It's not up to you almost, and that's what we're saying about don't give yourself a choice. Find something that forces you to build these healthy habits without necessarily feeling like they're a chore.
Yeah, and if it is body dysmorphia that motivates you for this, then perfect. I'm
Yeah,
not saying
yeah,
that body dysmorphia is a bad thing. I think we think that, comparison is not always the thief of joy. We think it can motivate you incredibly powerfully.
yeah.
If you think, wow, I'm skinny, sure, go to the gym. And I think for me, whenever I go to the gym, I get a pump and I feel way bigger. And, the following day, I'll also feel a lot better about myself. And
Yeah.
also, I think you'll find with cardio specifically, you'll feel better for the rest of the day if you do that in the morning. Maybe not, the first few times you do it, but in the grand scheme
Like a
of
spring in
things,
your step.
yeah, it's actually better for your mind to
Mm.
have, for your body to have exercised.
We
So
haven't
it
really
can
talked about
actually,
the mental health benefits of fitness, have we? Like, I think it sort of goes
mm,
without saying, but if you are in a good fitness routine, cardio especially, I've found the mental benefits. Even like if you really struggle to get out there and do some sort of fitness, which I think one thing that's good about society in the modern day is that people are generally inclined now. It's a very popular thing to go to the gym or do some sort of exercise. It's like it's a done thing. Um, but if you do struggle to get out there and sort of find the time or find the motivation, even just going for a walk, like half an hour to an hour of walking, you can burn a couple of hundred calories. You get out, you feel so much better mentally. And I think any sort of exercise, even if it's half an hour to 45 minutes a day, it just will make you feel so much happier. And with that will come added motivation and you'll build up from there.
yeah, I think it is hard when it isn't your biggest motivation. I'd say for me, what I'm grappling with at the moment is a couple of years ago, maybe even at the start of uni, going to the gym was like incredibly important, and I wanted to get bigger and leaner and whatever. When you find another passion, which is I'd say now supercharged, my
Mhm.
startup, it becomes more difficult to prioritize. But I do think it is incredibly important to try and keep it ticking over, even if you find a balance. For me, that balance is not going to the gym 6 times a week, not doing two lots of push pull legs. Because really, I mean, if you want to, they say that if you want to grow muscle as optimally as possible, you need to do your muscle groups 2 times a week. But if you do each of them 1 times a week, or even if you just switch to doing what I've tried to do is 4 days instead of six, and then you still get to do upper, lower, but you're saving kind of 2 days. It's finding a balance because some days I will just want to, code all day.
Yeah, which
Um,
is fine. But as long
yeah.
as you do find the time to sort of fit fitness in, I mean, we've got 24 hours in a day, right? So 8 hours sleeping, 8 hours working, and you've still got 8 hours remaining. Spend two
Mm.
of those eating, two of those doing nothing. You've still got 4 hours left to fit other stuff in, whether it be the gym, going for a walk, going for a run, whatever it might be. It you no matter what you say, you can find time for fitness, regardless
Yeah.
of what your routine is. I mean, there's investment bankers who get to work at 6 in the morning, leave at 9 o'clock at night, who still find time for the gym. Whether that's healthy or not, I'm not sure. And I think it is about developing healthy relationships. But for 99.9% of people, you can easily fit time as your schedule to have a healthy gym habit or fitness habit, whatever it might be that you enjoy and that is best for you.
Yeah, that's important. Having an actual schedule, as you talk about, being kind of direct and meaningful with your scheduling and your time management is very important for this.
Mm.
If you set a kind of time every day that you're going to go to the gym, a time every day that you're going to wake up, crucial time, same time that you go to sleep every night as much as possible. It's going to really help you to block out your day. And if it's just natural to you that you go to the gym at this specific time, that's going to feel good. If it's
Yeah.
natural to you that you go on a run in the morning, it's going to just happen. Um, so even if you have a bad day, think it's going to just feel like it's part of that day rather than feeling
Mhm.
like something that you have to go out of your way to do. So yeah, that's really important as well. But I think we've gone into a lot of the negatives of influencers and social media, but it is important to stress that this can be motivation for people.
Mm.
I think there's a lot of motivational videos out there, and there's a lot of videos that aren't even meant to be motivational, but which probably are. Seeing Sam Sulik's latest physique update to many people is going to make them want to train legs, and we'll show you this in a second, I think. But that is unreal. That is an incredible achievement to look like that. And I imagine many of us seeing that would think, if I could look even half as good as that, I'd be happy.
Sam Sulik's another one. You talk about the whole. He looks unreal. You talk about the whole package. He gets out of breath walking from one side of the gym to the other. Like his
Yeah,
heart is not in a good place from an outside view anyway.
yeah.
So the Trent twins are another one who are very similar to that. They look ridiculous. And
I
if
think
you're,
it's weird with Sam Sulik because I swear he does cardio.
I don't, I saw this. I might be speaking outdated now because I saw a clip of him maybe 6 months ago where he finished like not. I don't think it was a particularly intense set. I think he was doing curls or something, and it wasn't even like it was a warm up set. And he was like pretty. He seemed like he'd be pretty gassed by it. So,
Yeah,
but whether that's sort of because he got a bad reaction to that, and people were like, "You need to start looking after your heart," and whether that's motivated him to now take those steps and do a bit more cardio. I think it's
yeah.
important to listen to people around you and sort of take the advice that people give you because
Of course, some people just don't know what it's like to actually train hard because,
mm,
to achieve that physique, you can't just,
I mean,
be consistent.
after a set where you're going to complete failure and you're really pushing to your absolute limit, you are going to be out of breath. And it doesn't, you don't maybe look at that and think, oh, that's the sort of thing that would get you out of breath. But if you're pushing your body to the complete, I don't know what the science is behind it. If you're pushing your body to that complete limit of until you're total failure, you are gonna your whole body's just gonna have a natural reaction to that, and being out of breath is part of that reaction.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Doesn't mean that you're unhealthy and you're not doing enough cardio necessarily, but equally, if you're doing a light warm up set and you're getting out of breath, then maybe you need to start, looking at where your priorities lie.
so we can't do a fitness influencer podcast without doing some natty or not. So let me bring them up now. So first of all, Sam Sulik's new physique. I think this was released just over a week ago, about the 16th of January. He's looking insane. I mean, you can see the vascularity in his legs.
That's not even particularly good lighting either. Like he's not in especially
Not
good
stage
lighting.
lighting,
There's no down light. It's not really even down lighting. It's like some random. It's like a school gym.
but you'll
Wow.
see it even better in a minute when he sort of flexes properly. I mean, so
Even his
he's
calves
about
are just
50
huge.
days out from his competition. So I can't really, I'm interested to see how this progresses, but he's incredibly lean already.
Mm.
I mean,
Do you know
look
how
at
many
those.
calories he's on daily at this point when you're 50 days out? I mean,
You'd be like, I mean, he's clearly cutting quite early. He'll probably refeed,
yeah,
um, because I can't see that it's sustainable to stay
yeah. I was
that
gonna
low
say
because
this is.
he'd still want to be putting on muscle. I think for him, it helps him to kind of see himself leaner, to kind of see what the end product will look like.
You can see it in
Um,
his face though, can't you? Because
but I mean,
he looks even in the
yeah,
face. I mean, his legs are a different story, but even in the face, he looks leaner. He is what percent are you saying there?
I mean, he can't see the upper body, but he's looking
If you can see
like,
those legs, if you can see those veins in your quads though,
yeah, that on his left quad, that vein down the inside is mental. I mean, I'd say probably like 7% maybe.
yeah, which isn't far off what they go on stage at, really. Like
Yeah, sort of.
3-4%. I don't know if is anyone.
I
I
think
don't
it's
actually.
rare to reach 3%. I think people
I
often
think
say,
three might be a record, and that's I don't know why that rings a bell.
yeah, the most lean guy in the world is at about 3%, I think. Anything below that, and you're just too
Yeah,
malnourished to actually function.
yeah, literally.
Ronnie Coleman famously said that he was like 0% body fat or like -2% body fat or something.
Yeah,
That's an example of a guy who knows gym very well, but he doesn't know the science
yeah.
particularly
No,
well
he
at
just knows
all.
how to
He
train.
just he just knows that it requires an incredible amount of fortitude to get down that low, and it basically feels like there's nothing on your bones.
I've googled it, and apparently, I mean, it's debated, but if you can Google him, it's Strable, HELMUT, yeah, Strable, top one there.
Yeah, it is this guy. Yeah, I mean,
Just
look
it's
at
not
that.
coming up for you, so I'll try and show it like that. But that's his back.
Oh yeah, there we go. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
you
got
can see
like
that.
that's edited, but
Yeah, I mean the lighting. But they haven't edited anything about his physique. It's just the lighting's different to make it to accentuate it even more. I don't know if
yeah,
0% is even feasible. I don't think that's accurate, but that's like three.
that's about 3.5%, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yes, so he maintains that almost year round.
How? I mean, so I've never looked into this guy. I've never even heard of him until about 45 seconds ago. But I really want to know how he, in terms of his gym and eating routine,
Yeah, so it's very high protein. It's probably not 306
306
grams all
grams
the
seems
time.
like a lot.
Um, I'm not sure your body can even like process that amount of protein. Um, but of course it's going to be, extremely low carb, extremely low calorie in general, below 2,000 calories, I'd imagine.
So you say carbs, and I'm not that educated on this topic in terms of because I haven't looked into it, but apparently recent studies have shown actually if you post gym, or not even post gym, whenever really, eating, I think the optimal amount is 2.6 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight, so slightly more than the recommended amount of protein. Can be really beneficial not in terms of muscle growth necessarily, but in terms of looking lean. And I don't understand the science behind that. We're always told to avoid fast releasing carbs, but I don't know if that's because of the other ingredients that often come alongside fast release carbs. When you think fast release carbs and you think like chocolate, high sugar things,
Mm.
crisps, chips, and they're obviously all high fat. But things like pasta, which is slightly slower releasing, apparently it's supposed to have a really, really good impact on just your general physique.
Yeah, so if you look at a typical show week for a bodybuilder, they'll carb load in the kind of very close lead up to the show.
Mm.
Um, it helps them look more full. The muscles look more full. The skin, if you just totally depleted, the skin can look kind of dry and a bit sort of not as nice. So I think this
Mm.
is kind of based around that, how they kind of feed up just before the show. It's not enough to um like show in their physique in terms of looking fat, but it's just enough to sort of give their muscles a bit of kind of volume.
So
Um,
in terms of pure aesthetics,
Yeah,
they're
it's what
most
all
people don't.
bodybuilders do. So it's definitely there's definitely some science behind
Yeah,
it.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, this guy apparently maintains it almost year round, so he must be some
He's surely not
insanely.
natural.
I mean,
I
you
don't
think?
think you can maintain that naturally.
I mean, I would have thought like surely you'd need to be taking some diuretics.
Yeah,
Um, but when I mean this
at the
video is
very
saying
least.
1% body fat, it's not 1% body fat because
No,
that's
it's
not
not.
enough to physically stay alive. You need some
No,
fat to like, if you don't have enough energy on board from your food, your body just burns fat. If there's no fat left, then
you just die.
yeah,
I think
literally.
that 3% is possibly feasible if you are 3% body fat the day you step on stage and then you have a massive refeed immediately. Because that's not
Yeah, yeah.
for a matter of days or weeks, even 3% is not sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's clearly genetically predisposed to be incredibly lean.
Yeah.
Most
Just look at those
bodybuilders,
abs, like they're just, look how even. I'm really glazing him now, but like it's just ridiculous. Every single facet of his upper body is yeah, mental.
yeah, I mean, most bodybuilders who are obviously like the elite genetics, I mean, you've seen bodybuilders collapse on stage, you've
Mm,
seen bodybuilders have heart attacks on stage. It's an incredibly extreme sport, and you've seen how they refeed after their shows. They often have one or several cheat meals.
yeah.
Who was it? Larry Wheels, after his show, he got his pro card, and then he gained about 50 pounds of body weight in like 3 days or like 2 days or something,
Have you seen the
just
photo
from
of Jay
eating
Cutler
like
when
donuts
he's
and
yeah. It's just well, if you're going to be that disciplined for like 6 months, then you are going to just be inclined to let yourself go a little bit. But if it's in the photo of Jay Cutler, I think it's like 5 days after. I think it was 2005, and
looking really porky.
face is just he looks like a pig. No
Yeah,
disrespect to the guy, I probably wouldn't say it to his face, but yeah.
yeah. He famously, well, he's a very nice guy from what I've heard. He's also got a podcast. So maybe we'll get him on one day, or vice versa. Not sure why we'd be on his podcast. Fastest growing
Fitness advice,
commentator
mate.
podcast.
He'd have to gym tips from us, obviously.
Yeah, he famously got quite large during his off season because obviously bodybuilders, feed up a lot during their off season. There's this, it's somewhat of a myth that you need to be in a calorie surplus to put on extra muscle. There is some science showing that if you're in a slight calorie surplus, you gain maybe a tiny amount more muscle, but it's, you can maintain and still gain muscle. And for most people who aren't trying to be a bodybuilder, you don't need to be in a calorie surplus to gain muscle. You might feel better at the gym or whatever if you're in a calorie surplus, but it's far better to actually you can be in a deficit and you can gain muscle. It's called, well, I guess, what is that called? I mean, you can main gain where you kind of stay at the same body fat, but you gain muscle. That's what I'd recommend for most people if they're at a kind of decent weight. You can actually kind of cut whilst also gaining muscle, though, if it's a very
Really,
low calorie surplus, of course.
a really simple way of putting it, which isn't completely accurate, but the way that most, like a lot of influencers talk about it so that people that aren't as in tune with it all can understand is your weight is determined by your calorie intake, your muscle mass is determined by your protein intake, and then how you feel and your health and your illnesses etc are all determined by your micronutrient intake, and that isn't completely accurate, but it's actually not a bad benchmark to for someone that's maybe just starting out or is sort of at an intermediate level. It's not a bad benchmark and a bad thing to sort of follow as a representation of how to get to where you want to be.
Verdict on Sam Sulek is he's not natural. He doesn't claim to be natural. He also doesn't claim that he's not natural, but it's obvious that he isn't natural. He doesn't compete in tested competitions, so there's no real claim there that he is natural. I think most of his fans know that he isn't, but they still find him an inspiration. I do think that he's encouraged some people to go on steroids, but I think that's kind of par for the course with this sort of thing.
Yeah,
He looks incredible. So if you also want to look incredible, then you might go on steroids. You might ignore the, you know, incredibly
health
horrendous
terrible
health
health
benefits,
side effects.
which we've got to stress. It's
Yeah.
really not good for you. And you probably would hop on steroids and still not look like this guy
Mm.
because he is one in a million genetics.
Well, as even if you do hop on, like to look even half this good, an extraordinary amount of work still has to go into it, and
Yeah,
yeah, your genetics have to be unreal. You can't be like a little chud and then go on a trend cycle and train to mild discomfort 3 times a week, doing 4 sets of 12, and
yeah.
all of a sudden turn into Sam Sulek. Like you still have to be genetically gifted, and he would have reached his natural potential a long time ago to have now hopped on whatever he's on. And I would actually be quite interested. And I know some bodybuilders and influencers do publish their cycle just to see sort of what the impacts are of the various supplements.
It was very obvious with Sam because it was affecting his skin quality massively. He was incredibly spotty. I think he got a lot of pushback for that. And so I think he actually lowered his dose or he changed his dose to something else because his skin quality kind of measurably improved. I think he realized, and combined with the shortness of breath, I think he realized that this was also partly because he did some horrendous cheat meals. I think he was focused on just getting the amount of protein without actually eating clean. That can impact your skincare massively. So he switched to eating clean, and then boom, his skincare was improved. But that could
A
have
big
all
part of
turned.
these competitions is the overall aesthetic as well. Like if you rock it with a really good physique, but then even if like and I know it probably shouldn't make that much of a difference, but if you got like a spotty face and all of the rest of it, and you just look a little bit crap, it's not gonna reflect well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, why do you think Chris Bumstead is a seven-time Mr. Olympia or six-time Mr. Olympia?
The mocks,
Yeah, because he's a
gorgeous.
very attractive guy and he's 6'2". It all helps. He's the kind of pinnacle of what a bodybuilder man should look like, even though again it's unrealistic.
Oh,
Um,
hugely, yeah.
but most people can agree that he looks good.
Yeah, definitely an impressive physique.
Yeah, cool. All right, let's move on.
Who's next?
Right, these three. So I
So
think
the
these
guy in
three.
the middle, I think obviously we can just wipe him off and say the chances of I think he's natural.
Yeah, so George
It's
Porridge
definitely,
is definitely natural
definitely
because he
attainable
just
naturally.
yeah, he's actually pretty strong. His preacher curl is pretty strong, but he's one of those I think who just like the form isn't amazing. He
We
does
were
it a
saying
lot.
this before we started recording. We looked at this photo. The guy in the middle, you see him in his own videos. He's actually quite. I can't remember his name, but he's actually quite big, and
George Porritt or something like that.
and he's very strong as well. But he just looks. He doesn't look tiny, but being next to those two is not doing him any favors by any means.
Yeah, so in terms of the other two, Ryan on the left. See, I watch his videos and I kind of had in my head that he's natural, but now that I look at him, and Charlie said there's no way he's natural. Um, he's got spots all over him.
Mm,
Now, this
that's
guy,
the telltale for me.
to be clear, this guy is 19, so he's our age, which by the way, he doesn't look our age. I mean, he's got a full-grown beard.
He looks about
Um,
40.
but so obviously acne is going to be something that he would have as someone who's clearly a genetic freak. Uh, it often comes with it that you've got some acne, but that's a lot of acne. He does speak a lot online about steroids in a sort of scathing way, as if he doesn't take them. I saw a video he released the other day about MK677 and Rad 140 and how they're just incredibly bad for you. So he's clearly got his head a good head on his shoulders,
Mm.
but
He comes across very well. He's very educated. He's obviously got a really impressive physique. And like I was saying about Sam Sulek, whether you're natural or not, it still requires an insane amount of work to get to that size and to look like that. And I
yeah,
think if it wasn't for the sort of the spots on his arms, based on what he says and the content he produces, I probably wouldn't have. I mean, he's definitely really, really, really big and he's really strong as well. I wouldn't have maybe immediately said he wasn't natural, but I think the spots on the arms are a big giveaway, sadly.
yeah, it's very easy as someone who isn't able to dumbbell overhead press the 70-kilo dumbbells. It's very easy for me to say that he's on steroids. Um, but of course, we know, and again, we'll get onto him, we know someone who's kind of got a similar level of inherent strength who we are almost certain is natural. So yeah, it's difficult. There are going to be top 0.01 percenters. Um, but do we think this guy on the right, whose name eludes us, do we think he's natural? I mean, you can see the abs, so he's incredibly
Yeah,
lean. He's got the
he adds to his t-shirt, which is
yeah,
dubious.
defined bicep vein.
There's like
Uh,
it's achievable naturally. He's like what 24, 25.
he's 23,
I
which, by
mean,
the way, he doesn't look very 23, which is also a surefire sign that they're enhanced, is they look a lot older. Um,
but he's been training for 7 years, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, I believe so. And he does claim natural, based on another photo we saw.
Yeah, the fact you can see his abs through his t-shirt is a bit suspect for me.
Yeah, which would be fine. Like, I could probably see Ralphie's abs through his t-shirt if it
But no,
was tight.
his arms aren't that big. Like it's all of
Yeah,
it put together.
yeah, and
And
he's incredibly strong. I mean, I think this guy squats. He claims to be the best squatter in the UK, which isn't true because I'm pretty
it
sure
definitely
Henry
isn't true.
Goldstraw benches more than him. But
I mean, what is this a recent video? Because if this is, and I know that some people like that guy, that German guy we just looked at, they stay lean all year round. But to have that's like 6% body fat in December, January is it's uncommon, if nothing else. He
yeah,
could
I
be
mean
natural.
that might not be six. That's definitely not 6%. I
No,
think
yeah, six
it
was
could probably be like. I mean, if you think about
6%.
people
What
that
was
we
on
know
about six
who
percent? Sorry,
have defined bicep veins, and they're probably like 10% or something. Um, so
yeah,
I don't
six
know.
percent. 6% is too low. You can get that level of body fat and that level of muscle naturally. I'm just not convinced he did.
Yeah, of course. The trouble is that. to get famous on something like TikTok, you have to be the best or one of the best. You have to look unreal. Otherwise, no one's going to pay you any attention.
Mhm.
Um, unless, of course, you're Jack's Fitness. Uh, and that's kind
There's a
of,
spectrum. You either need to look terrible.
yes.
I don't want to say he looks terrible because he has actually improved his physique, but you need to look worse than most or better than most. You can't just be average because unless you've got an insane personality or something else that differentiates you, you're not going to get traction.
Yeah. So it's a tough one because people know that taking steroids is an easy route to fame, and that's
Mm.
a sacrifice that some people are willing to take. I think because these people are so young, they're potentially not in the position to make a substantiated judgment. But I think we are too quick to say that people are on steroids because a
Yeah,
rational human being A wouldn't know where to get steroids, although I did see a supplement shop when I was walking through town the other day that looked incredibly suspect. It was one of those where you have to walk upstairs. You know, like in that supplement shop we went to in Spain, where it was like, if I asked this guy what he had under his counter, I'd probably get something good.
yeah,
Uh,
100%. Well, good, good is
So,
an interesting word.
and of course, with we'll get onto this as well, but when you're rich, it's a lot easier. But
Mm,
people who are already successful, um, say like Alex Eubank or like the person we're about to discuss, it's a lot easier for you to get hold of these things, to get actually prescribed them by, your doctor,
it is.
especially when you're older. But we'll get
Yeah,
onto that
yeah.
in a second. So we're saying George in the middle, definitely natural.
Mm-hmm.
The other two,
Jury's
not
out,
sure. Yeah.
but probably not. But as I say, jury's out. I don't want to sort of get a defamation claim, so it could be natural.
Next up is the man himself.
There's been so much. This is probably the most discussed, natty or not, I'd say.
Yeah, so I'd say David Lade was the one who first brought the whole natty or not thing to become a trend because
Mm.
he was the first person to have a ridiculous transformation where it was almost impossible to believe that that transformation was done naturally.
Yeah.
You see how skinny he is. However, you do see already in his before picture just how lean he was there.
You can still see separation in his shoulders.
Yeah, exactly. So
Um,
you can see there's a clear kind of base for muscle growth.
yeah.
But that's obvious. That doesn't necessarily mean that he didn't take steroids. If you
He's got
look
the ideal blueprint.
I think the issue with this is most people would probably say that his physique on the right is something that could be attained naturally by someone. But the question is whether it could be attained by that guy on the left.
Yeah.
Now, the guy on the left, I mean, he's like 14, right? Like, I can't remember exactly how old he was there, but he wasn't particularly old. He's got an ectomorph build, which is where you're tall. He's about 6'3" or something,
Mm.
and you're very skinny. So
Long and lean was the way they put it, wasn't it?
yeah, so you're never gonna, well, it's unlikely that he was gonna put on a lot of weight. He could probably eat a lot of food. He's got
Mm.
very fast metabolism, so it would digest very quickly. So he doesn't have to worry about his weight. He's gonna stay lean, and so then it all just comes down to how much training he does,
Yeah.
and how much protein he eats.
I mean, he definitely like did, and I keep saying this, but even if you're not natural, you have to an unreal amount of commitment and effort is still
Yeah.
required of you. I don't think anyone is under the illusion that he's a lifetime natural. I think he's definitely taken something. Someone said, someone watched his really famous transformation video from like I think it went out and about. It was the thing that really put him on the map. Um, and said someone that was far more. I think it might have been Greg actually.
Yeah.
Greg Duchette said that he reckons that he just took like Psalms or something like that at the age of maybe 16 or 17. But then he could probably get away with claiming natural since then. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I'd say he doesn't look any better than this now. This was
mhm,
quite a while ago. He's quite a bit older now. I wouldn't say there's been much improvement, which is a sure sign that either he's training a lot less and putting in a lot less work, or he's hopped off steroids and all the training he does now is just an attempt to kind of retain that physique that
yeah,
he's so famous for. Because of course it's an amazing physique, incredibly thin waist, broad shoulders. This is a
his
sort of
shoulders are massive.
yeah, this is a physique that many people would dream of. Of course, if you stood next to this guy, well, he'd probably be taller than you. Um,
Not me.
Not you, you're a Sigma. Um, but if you stood next to him, you'd probably realize that he's not actually huge. He's in great lighting here, like
Yeah,
unreal down lighting.
definitely got a pump.
So if you stood next to this guy in broad daylight, or in a kind of badly lit room, you probably wouldn't see any of those veins or striations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's important to remember. And his arms might not even look that big. You
You'd
know,
still be able to tell he trains like a lot, but it wouldn't be the same as seeing him in this photo when he's clearly in. Probably, well, I reckon he's probably. I don't want to make a comment on enhanced or not, but he's definitely one thing we can say is in incredible downlighting. He's got a pump. Probably in terms of him and his body, close to the leanest he's ever been.
Yeah.
In probably 10 to 12% there. You can see the vein in the shoulder. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, and what we
very,
haven't touched on is he was benching an insane amount of weight, upwards of 500 pounds. I don't know how many kilos it was.
that's
But
about 230 kilos or
yeah,
something like that, I
it
thought.
was like 580 pounds or something.
And
He
when
was, inc
benching that when you're 6'3" as well is ridiculously
yeah,
impressive.
because, yeah, exactly.
Long arms.
Yeah, you've got a lot of distance to move. So this kind of contributed to that as well, especially since his bench press has actually gone down since then. So that's another kind of key motivator. Of course, as someone who I got up to 135 bench. I now can't bench 135 because when you hit it, you kind of think, okay, I've done it now.
Mm,
I want to focus on aesthetics. I want to balance my trainings because I've got, weaker areas. Maybe I want to work on my shoulders more or whatever. So, to say that just because his bench press has dropped off means he must be on steroids, you know, you can't say that, but it is a bit of an indicator that he now
yeah,
can't bench quite as much. You'd think as he matured, as his muscles matured, you'd think he'd at least stay the same, maybe get
yeah,
slightly
yeah,
better if he was
yeah.
natural.
I mean,
Obviously, there's this natural limit, but the natural limit is never straight. There's still a bit of slant to it.
yeah.
But yeah, so and I mean, in terms of like surefire signs of performance enhancing drugs, he's got a bit of gyno on his nipples, which tends to be a bit of a sign. But then again, he's a
Any
teenager.
like that's
I
it's
get
not
it.
that's a sign, but it's not a conclusive one. There's
Yeah,
if it's
exactly.
they
His
don't want
skin
to get
looks
that.
great there. So there's definitely nothing definitive we can say. So
Greg's far
yeah,
more educated to speak on this than we are, and as I say, he said probably just some sort of psalms, something like that, at the age of like 17, when
yeah,
his development really accelerated. Which I mean,
yeah.
we went to school with people who did psalms at 16, 17, who look terrible now. So the point we're making is, even if that is the case, he's still the dedication and commitment he had to put into this, and it is his full time job, so it's slightly easier. If Gymshark were paying me millions of pounds to just go to the gym and wear their clothes, I'd probably be a bit more motivated too. But the point is, it's still a big commitment to stay there or thereabouts this big.
100%. So that is the famous David Lade, King of Transformations. All right, it's a bit of a different one. Less famous at the moment. Maybe one day he'll be as famous as these other people we've talked about.
Mm.
This is someone who we went to school with, and the reason we've included him is because, and I hope he's okay with it, we might reach out to him to check, um, is because we saw in real time his transformation occur. You can go check him out, SBD Goldie on TikTok and Instagram. His transformation was pretty insane. I mean, I don't know if you probably remember him from like year nine when
He
he
was,
was
yeah,
this tiny
like
guy.
you would never have thought he was going to get this big. Like he's just like a
No.
pretty.
So I mean, we said David Lade was an exomorph. I guess this guy would probably be a mesomorph, which essentially means you're more of like a sort of barrel build. You're short, stocky.
Mm.
Certainly being short has benefited him in when
More
it comes to
conducive to
powerlifting.
lifting big weight, I think, being short
Yeah,
generally.
you can see he's
How much is this? Does it say? I mean, we can. What are they? 25 kilo plates?
yeah, and there's
That's like five of them on each side. I want to say.
yeah, five reds and then a 15.
So what?
Five
25 times
25s is
five.
150. No,
I'm just going to do it on my calculator so that we don't.
250.
So
Yeah,
it's 10. It's 10. So it's 250 in terms of just plates plus 280. It's 300 kilograms.
it's about 300. Yeah,
It's
which is insane.
ridiculous.
He's
Yeah,
19.
like that's
Um,
unthinkable for anyone, any normal person, really.
yeah, so the reason we've included him is based on rumor, we can include a bit of insight into kind of what was going on there. In terms of, we were never entirely sure whether he was enhanced or not, but we can almost certainly say that he wasn't, especially given he now competes in tested powerlifting competitions. I mean, you can see him there in his GB
And he's
body suit.
been competing in tested competition since he was like 15, 16. So it's
Yeah, so we're pretty certain. In terms of nutrition, he was eating, we've heard anywhere between 500 grams to a kilogram of oats per day.
mate.
Now,
Anyone listening, try and do that for one day. It is like
yeah,
it's
so
so good.
even try and measure out 100 grams of oats.
Oats. When you buy a bag of oats in the shop, it comes in a 1 kilogram bag.
Yeah,
That's the amount. That's
yeah. So like imagine that box of porridge that you get. That's a kilo of oats. So this is ridiculous. Oats are very high protein, by the way. They're pretty high calorie as well. For powerlifting, you don't need this is not, Olympic weightlifting. You don't need a huge amount of cardio. So he's very much always been kind of honed in on, not being the leanest, but to be honest, he's fairly
He's
lean.
really lean considering he's just deadlifting
Yeah,
300 kegs. Also, just to slightly venture off topic, but it was in the caption, I'll be back with a much better deadlift. Like he hasn't just made 300 kilograms look like a light work. He's just ridiculous. Like, and that's what we're talking about. The
yeah,
standards that he sets himself is very committed,
yeah.
from what we've seen.
Of course, he's got second, and he's obviously going to want first.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's kind of crazy. We also heard a bit about his training whilst he was at school. He was a boarder at school, so he had access to the school gym, which it was an international school, so it was a pretty high caliber of gym. Um, Apparently, every week he was putting up his one rep maxes by about 5 kilos. So, whereas a sort of normal person, someone who isn't a freak of genetics, would be probably when they just start out, they might do that, but consistently going, beyond 100 kilograms and stuff for all lifts, people would not be doing that. They'd be adding a rep each session. When I go up in weight, I've increased by one rep at a time until I've increased the weight. I've not increased the weight every session.
Yeah.
So this is what we're talking about. His muscles are clearly extremely inclined to grow and to kind of adapt to heavy amounts of weight. Obviously, if we're looking in terms of physiology, he's shorter. I can't remember exactly, probably like 5'8".
5, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is beneficial for bench press because you've got shorter levers. Beneficial for squats as well, I think. Um,
It just from not a very scientific answer, but it just seems like you've not got as far to go.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, have you seen those? Do we call them dwarfs? Short people who squat like large amounts of weight. Um, like it's kind
yeah,
of insane how much they
disproportionate.
squat. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's like wow, that's like
How?
5 times your body weight.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So that's kind of an extreme example. Yeah, not hugely. I think it's better to be tall for deadlifts. So I'd be
I've
interested
heard
to
that. I
see
don't
how
know.
whether
I
that.
don't understand why, but it's still. I mean, he's
Well, you have longer arms, so the moment about your hips is larger because if you have a longer lever, think about trying to lift a car with a um
a
crowbar.
small,
If the
yeah, smaller
crowbar's
crowbar
longer,
compared to
it's going to be easier.
yeah. No, fair, fair.
But it doesn't seem to be stopping him, and so incredible progression,
Yeah,
going
and we are
places.
almost certain he's natural as well, which is crazy.
Yeah, so it gives you an idea of what is definitely possible natural. So we're not going to say anyone is definitely not natural, but yeah, a good one to include.
Yeah,
And
go and check him out because yeah, as
yeah,
I said, almost certain he's natural, ridiculously strong, and a nice guy as well. So
awesome. And last of all, it's a bit of a different one. This is Jeff Bezos, for people who don't know, looking wham. Now, I don't have a comparison photo for you, but he used to be very skinny. I mean, he's a Silicon Valley uh, nerd who started a book selling store. That's what Amazon initially was. So to now look like this,
look
you
at his
know,
forearms.
yeah, natural lighting, vascularity, bicep vein, forearm veins. Not incredibly lean. There are some photos of him looking even leaner.
Hmm.
Um, and the fact that he's what 50, 60. I don't know how
Yeah,
old he is, but
early.
he's
I'm gonna
pretty
Google
old.
how old he is because I mean, we've all come on to the whole how old he is. He's 62, which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
We'll come on to the whole thing of how maybe when you're older, certain enhancements are more acceptable or more advisable. But regardless of any enhancement or anything, like his traps are insane. Really good shoulder separation, vascularity in his arms, the pure size of his forearms, his chest. Maybe I mean, but then it's still
but he's got some
incredibly
gyno on
intimidating.
his
So I was
chest.
going to say, and I don't want to come on to gyno just yet because we want to talk about has he done this naturally? Almost certainly not. I mean, if there's a guy that I don't want a defamation claim off, it's the richest man in the world. So I probably won't
Yeah,
conclusively
but if we're
say that.
getting a defamation claim from him, that's probably a bit of popularity, so we'll find it. Um, yes, so if Greg Duchette said it, we can say it. If you have access to all this money and several doctors, several fitness coaches, you can have anything you want. You
Mm.
can probably buy. He can probably buy stuff like through Amazon if he wants to. Um, if he wanted to sell performance enhancing drugs on there, like I'm sure he'd find a way.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, why would he not? Is the kind of crucial question. Why would you not go on, especially certain sort of replacement therapies, which are more kind of beneficial rather than detrimental for older
Mm.
people? Because when you're older, your testosterone production drops massively. So going on a sort of healthy dose, particularly this is particularly relevant for um, bodybuilders, or people with a very good physique who want to kind of keep that physique without kind of having the detriment of, you know, taking steroids. HRT or TRT can be prescribed by a doctor if you have particularly low levels of testosterone. I mean, even if you're not that old, even if you just have very low testosterone,
Yeah, it can happen to like
it,
30-year-olds.
yeah, it can be a detriment to your mood. It can be a detriment to your just general health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're prescribed it, I mean, I don't know what you would do. Um, I'd
I'd
hope
be
that I
straight on
wouldn't.
it.
You'd be straight on it.
Not at
I mean,
this age,
I'd
but if
want
I was like
reassurance
50.
that, it wouldn't be hugely detrimental to me.
Mm.
I'd want to kind of weigh up the
Oh,
upsides and
at this
downsides.
age, I'd be far more hesitant. But if I was 60, 62 like he is, and I got offered it, and I was advised by obviously the best doctors in the world that
Yeah.
it was the best path, I'd be straight on it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's often taken for genuine health reasons. I mean, this guy has no real reason to look wham, does he? Other
No.
than his own body image. Um, but honestly, fair play to him, I say. Like, he looks
One
great.
one of the
If he's
big
taken a ridiculous amount of PEDs, then I'd wonder why, what's the point? But he looks
look
good.
unreal.
It's probably improved his, I don't know, his sex life maybe as well.
Yeah, at that age, then certain things do like that does tend to drop off. So I think anything you can, it's just improves your quality of life. Generally, there is a strong link between having the sort of testosterone levels and overall quality of life in terms of your health, what you're able to do. But one of the big, and it's not the only drawback of taking enhancements, but one of the big ones when you're our age at least is it basically prohibits you from producing anywhere near as much testosterone naturally. But if you've got to 62 and as you say, your body stopped producing that much testosterone and you're starting to drop off, then why not? I think, go for it. So I think we can almost conclusively say he isn't natural, but equally fair play. Like,
Yeah, I never want to be conclusive because I think he did deny it, which is the kind of diplomatic thing that
yeah,
everyone
you would,
does. They
wouldn't you?
deny it, which I still don't really get why everyone feels the need to be duplicitous when it comes to this sort of thing. But I guess because it's illegal to purchase it, so
Mm.
you're basically admitting to a crime if you say that you're on them.
Not if you've been prescribed it through a doctor, though, which I think is
No, no, that's true.
probably what the path that he's gone down.
Yeah, yeah, probably. So
Fair
we're
play to
never
the
going to
guy.
say
I would,
anyone's definitely
yeah, and as I
advised.
say, you can't go conclusive, but I would probably, if I had to put money on it, I would lean towards him having had some sort of support from enhancements.
Yeah, so this we've given a overview of some presences online and especially ones who are sort of coming onto the scene. I think the whole body image problem online, it's certainly a problem. However, I think we're both quite positive about the direction it's going. I think the education is out there, especially with channels like, Love Him or Hate Him, Greg Doucette, who are going to call
Mm.
these people out. There's plenty of other channels as well who sort of dive into whether people are natty or not. I think that kind of gym talk and gym YouTube is such a big thing now that the education is out there and you've got such access. We haven't really talked about science-based lifting. Love it or hate it. Jeff Nippard, Dr. Mike.
Mm.
There's
Yeah,
incredible
Dr. Mike.
access now for
Yeah,
free. You don't have to buy a course, despite what people will tell you. You don't have to buy, David Lade's course to look like David Lade. There are people who'll tell you how to look like David Lade online for free.
Mhm.
So we are in a really positive place, I think. It's just if you're stuck inside looking at these images and kind of being influenced the wrong way, I think it falls actually on parents quite a lot of the time because I think they need to kind of not let their kids try these sorts of things and try and kind of give their kids a realistic idea, get them to go outside because if you go outside, you'll see that that's not what people look like
Yeah,
usually.
yeah,
Even those people don't look like that. That's the whole point we're trying to make.
yeah.
In normal lighting, they won't look like that.
And that's why we have so much respect for that picture of Jeff Bezos because that is completely he doesn't even know that's being taken,
Yeah.
and doesn't like I'm sure downlighting with a pump and probably a couple of percentages body fat leaner, he would look like unrecognizable from what he was five
That
years
is a
ago.
point that I'd like to discuss towards the end here. He's clearly someone who's not prioritized gym up to a certain point, but then he's reached a point in his life where he's decided a goal of his is to be healthy.
Mm.
Do you think that's something that you can put off for that long, or do you think it's something that's better to kind of keep it ticking along, and then
Yeah,
if you kind of get rich and famous and you kind of have spare time on your hands, then you can kind of make it more of a passion? What do you think?
I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it, but I think not everyone and 99.99% of people don't have access to let's talk look the highest level first of all the doctors and the supplements that he's clearly had access to, but even at a more simple level a lot of people that in their 50s maybe can't afford to eat as optimally or as healthily as you can because it is expensive to eat healthy and to eat high protein meals which are you know, healthy and low in preservatives and all the rest of it, which is a big sort of helping factor in building that physique. I think it's easier if you've got the foundations to work on. And I think also just from a mental perspective, he's clearly got a massive private gym in on his yacht or something. But if you're just if you're maybe lacking confidence and you're in your 40s or 50s, and then you go to a pure gym where the people 20 years younger than you that look better than you and are stronger than you and all the rest of it, just from like a mental side of things in terms of confidence, and it's sad, but really it's gonna play a part in your decision as to whether to get into it or not. So I think if you start younger when you probably are going to look better, and have more confidence just to throw yourself into it, I think the earlier you can start, the better, within reason. Obviously, you don't want people that are like 9 bench pressing big weight because it does have impacts on your growth, etc. But in your sort of early teens, it's a healthy habit to build, I think.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I sort of regret pushing a bit too hard when I was younger. I think you'll come to realize that there's this whole natural limit thing, and really, it might be more beneficial for your dedication to the gym to actually kind of build that up more incrementally. If I was still seeing measurable gains in my physique now, I think I'd have more motivation to go to the gym, whereas it kind
Yeah,
of just feels like I'm sort of maintaining.
keeping what you've
Certainly,
got.
I know that I've got capacity to get bigger, but it's going to take a lot longer to do. So I think definitely leave yourself a bit of scope to get bigger as a sort of someone in their early 20s.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, definitely can't try and find a balance where you enjoy it, but also you can kind of fit your other goals around it because for many people, it's not going to be your end goal.
No,
It's, I'm inclined to say it's almost a somewhat childish goal or a goal that many people have as a child, but many people just simply don't have what it takes to take that kind of to the next step of kind
yeah,
of bodybuilding. And to be honest, from my perspective, bodybuilding is not something that I'd ever want to go into, and I wouldn't want my kids to either, because
no.
it's a lifestyle and one that's not actually very healthy at all.
I think a good way of rounding this off and sort of bringing it to a natural close is to discuss my point of view and your point of view of where we are now in terms of fitness and maybe where we want to be and where we've come from. I know that it's sort of a never-ending journey. It's sort of something that you keep doing, and hopefully we will keep doing for as long as possible. But where do you think you are? How much progress do you feel you've made? And are you happy with your journey so far, if you like?
I think, yeah, apart from the few concerns I expressed about, maybe overdoing it a bit, maybe not stretching enough, this sort of thing, I think overall I'm pretty happy. I think my nutrition's always been pretty good. Um, I think now for me the big challenge is finding how I can be working as much as I want to work, be it on my
Mhm.
startup, be it on uni work or whatever, whilst also maintaining a baseline of fitness. Definitely for me, it's looking at cardio, how I can basically be healthy. I've
Mm.
been doing a lot of wheezing recently. I think it's because I've been ill. It's hard to know. But so I've talked about getting back into my swimming. I think that'll be a good way to keep my cardio up. But at the end of the day, the long-term goal is just be healthy, feel good, on a day-to-day basis. I think for me to feel good, I need to be doing more cardio. I'm not doing enough at the moment. Having been ill for quite a long period hasn't helped, but that's always an excuse, right? So that's it for me. Keep a baseline of gym because I do enjoy gym.
Gym's
But
been a big part of your life for years now.
yeah, but I don't enjoy not kind of working towards my goals in terms of studying and working and all that. So it's a fine balance, and
Living on campus was easy, wasn't it? When you were a 30-second walk from the gym, you
yeah,
can get
exactly. And now
get
it's
in
a
half an
20-minute
hour.
walk. So how
Yeah, exactly.
about you?
Um, yeah, I think I've definitely got a lot stronger in the last sort of 18 months or so, which I'm happy about. My cardio's probably dropped off a little bit from where it was. I mean, you and I were both in ridiculous shape in terms of cardio, sort of the summer before we went to uni. And I think that's probably dropped off. And I think we've sacrificed it for other things. Whether that just be like I haven't played football as much, so or at all, to be frank. So I think I've had less motivation to be in really to have a ridiculous VO2 max. I'm probably going to start playing again next season. There's a few things in the pipeline there, so I think with in view of that, it would be good to build that fitness up again. But equally, I don't want to sacrifice any sort of strength or physique improvements that I have made in that time.
Sure.
Um, so I think it's all about balance, as you say. You need to, and we were talking about this earlier. Cardio is a big part of feeling healthy and feeling good, and it all goes hand in hand. So I think keep up my cardio when it comes to doing team training and things like that. Again, I don't want that to become. I don't want to become complacent for that to become sort of an excuse where I can be like, oh well, I've had football, so I don't have to go to the gym. I think that level of commitment, and as things with work and things like this pick up as well, it's just about finding that hour a day to go and do it. But
Yeah,
ultimately, it's a hobby of mine. Same for you, really. It's something that I enjoy. So I don't struggle to find the time to do it. You're working on a startup plus uni plus a podcast and a million other things. So I understand, and also it's a pain in the ass for you to get to it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've got access to a car, so I just jump into my car, drive to the gym. it's an hour out of my day if I want it to be. And if I want it to be more, it can be. So I think keep that healthy relationship with it. I think that's one of my biggest goals, and sort of stay committed without making it feel like a chore.
Awesome. Well, that's all for today, folks. If you enjoyed this episode on fitness, there's many more to come. We'll be looking in future at nutrition, supplementation, but also exploring other topics of productivity, be it work-based, relationship-based, or otherwise.
Mm.
So stay tuned, drop us a follow, and come back next week for some more productivity advice from the boys.
Thanks all.